Okay.
I already hit the button. We'll be live in
good. And then
like
yeah,
3 seconds. Okay.
once you see live, then alert me, and then I'll start speaking.
Boom. We're live.
Will I know? Again,
I already hit the button. We'll be live in
and then yeah,
3 seconds. Okay.
once you see live, then alert me, and then I'll start speaking.
Boom. We're live.
Will I know? Again,
I already.
So we all stand by. We are going live from YouTube, and Dr. Uttam will alert us when we are live. We all stand by. We are going live from YouTube.
We're live.
And Dr. Uttam will alert us when we are live.
We're live.
So I can speak now, Dr.
Yes.
Uttam?
Go ahead.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from around the world, including from Nepal, Pakistan, and South Asian countries. I'm Dr. Sanjeev Sakura. I am delighted to bring forward an important topic in today's webinar, Nipah virus disease. What is it? How does it spread? And what can individuals and the public do to prevent the infection? And if infected, how can it best be managed? Recently, Nipah virus has claimed a life in Bangladesh and has sickened many in India. Given Nepal's open and porous border with neighboring countries, there is a potential risk of the virus entering Nepal, Pakistan, and other neighboring countries and beyond, and be globally prevalent. Many of you may have already heard about it through social media and other informal sources. However, today we aim to provide credible, evidence-based, trustworthy information. We're honored to have a lineup of distinguished global health leaders and infectious disease experts as our panelists, and they will be introduced in detail later, but their names are Dr. Rana Jawad Askar and Dr. Prabhat Adhikari. This webinar is hosted by the Society of Transnational Academic Researchers, or STAR Scholar Network, and co-organized by Protecting Health of Migrants, Immigrants, and Refugees, or FOMIR, the Non-Resident Nepali Association, NRNA, and the Center for American Medical Specialists, or CAMS. Allow me to introduce you to Dr. Keith Wright, the Vice President of Cultural Affairs for the STAR Scholar Network, seasoned professor, project manager, government consultant, and research analyst. He brings over 30 years of experience in teaching, project management, marketing, and media to academic to non-profit leadership. In addition to his scholarly work, he is an orchestra teacher and a Fulbright specialist. I would also like to recognize Dr. Uttam Gaule, President of STAR Scholar Network, who is with us today. Under his leadership, STAR Scholars actively contribute to quality enhancement initiative at universities across Global South, strengthening academic excellence, collaboration, and institutional capacity worldwide. Dr. Gaule will be observing our webinar today. Now, without further ado, let me invite our host, Dr. Keith Wright, to share his remarks and proceed with the webinar. Dr. Wright, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sakota. Namaste. Greetings, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends joining us across the region and around the world. I am honored to have the opportunity to be here. And welcome to our Zoom panel discussion on the Nipah virus outbreak. We are convening on Saturday, February 28, 2026 at 8 p.m. Kathmandu time to address a critical public health concern. Tonight, our panel will examine the science between the Nipah virus, current outbreak dynamics, clinical management strategies, and the public health interventions necessary to protect communities. Our goal is not to alarm, but informed action. Knowledge, preparedness, and coordinated response saves lives. Thank you for being a part of this important conversation. We will begin our discussion on the Nipah virus, what it is, how it spreads, and what we can do together to prevent and control it. And now, a brief word on the STAR Scholars Network. The STAR Scholars Network is, again, a grassroots organization that builds, again, communities to support the academic and international scholars are working across borders. The different dimensions are mentoring, publications, partnerships, and conferences. We also, later this year, will have our 2026 conference at OP Jindal Global University. And now, an introduction of our three panelists. Dr. Rana Jawad Ashgar. Joining us today is Dr. Rana Jawad Ashgar, a distinguished epidemiologist and global health leader. He is CEO of Global Health Strategies and Implementers and serves as an adjunct professor of epidemiology at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Dr. Ashgar has studied and worked across multiple continents, including with the University of Bristol, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, the University of Washington, Stanford, and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. He is only one of 6 Pakistanis ever selected to the CDC's prestigious Epidemic Intelligence Service. For more than 2 decades, he has strengthened disease surveillance systems, led outbreak responses, and trained public health professionals. He founded Pakistani's Field Epidemiology and Laboratory Training Program, building a national network that later received the CDC Director's Award for Excellence in Outbreak Investigation. During the COVID-19, he was a leading voice for data-driven response and equitable vaccinations. Today, he continues advising governments on epidemic preparedness and health intelligence. Please join me and welcome a warm welcome for Dr. Rana Jawad Ashgar. We also have Dr. Prabhat Adhikari. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Prabhat Adhikari, an internationally trained specialist in internal medicine, infectious diseases, and critical care. Dr. Adhikari completed his internal medicine residency at New York City Interfaith Medical Center, followed by an infectious disease fellowship at UCLA and a critical care fellowship at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. His clinical work has spanned the United States, Nepal, Israel, where he served in both frontline critical care settings and as a visiting consultant in infectious diseases. He is the founder and CEO of the Center for American Medical Specialists in Nepal, an organization dedicated to advancing high-quality medical practice and education. He serves as a founder and medical scientific advisor for Novala Biotech and leads Daphne Health, where he integrates infectious diseases expertise with medical innovation and digital health systems. Dr. Adhikari's career uniquely bridges clinical excellence, research, entrepreneurship, and global health leadership. His work focuses on infectious diseases, preparedness, critical care advancement, and strengthening international medical collaboration. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Prabhat Adhikari and Dr. Sanjeev Sapkota, STAR Scholars Director of Public Health. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Sanjeev Sapkota, the Director for Public Health for the STAR Scholars Network, and the 2019 Global Connection Award recipient and a distinguished leader in public health. Dr. Sapkota, a health scientist, medical epidemiologist, biostatistician, and communication specialist whose career has dedicated to strengthening health systems and improving population health outcomes. He has worked with globally respected institutions, including the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the World Health Organization, and the Georgia Department of Public Health. Throughout his career, Dr. Sapkota has led and implemented epidemiological studies, designed and evaluated public health programs, and developed robust surveillance systems that translate data into actionable policy. His expertise in data analysis, program evaluation, and project management has contributed directly to stronger health strategies and more responsive public health infrastructures. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Sanjeev Sapkota, Star Scholars Director of Public Health. Moderating this event is Ms. Anisha Bandari. Ms. Anisha Bandari from Nepal works in the healthcare sector and holds a bachelor's degree in public health. She is currently pursuing a master's in psychology. She has moderated numerous national and international webinars and seminars with professionalism and clarity, and has presented her research on social scientists at several international conferences, earning awards for the impact and quality of her work. We are delighted to have her moderating today's important discussion. Please join me in warmly welcoming Ms. Anisha Bandari. Ms. Bandari, welcome as moderator.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. So moving forward, we would like to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Rana Jawad Ashkar. Dr. Rana Jawad Ashkar, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure and honor to speak with this Star Scholars. And I think what Dr. Sanjeev is doing and the whole team is doing is excellent, that they are trying to provide continued medical education to a group of people, professionals in public health. Now, coming back to my topic, which is Nipah virus, which is today's topic, I will try to limit myself to the basic epidemiology and then how it's affecting global health security. So Nipah virus is a recent, I would say, a recent virus because we identified it first time in 1999. So pretty much like 25, 26 years. And it was first identified in pig farms in Malaysia and then Indonesia, where it caused outbreaks. And with later research, it was found out that a fruit bat, a type of bat which is called fruit bat, is basically eats a fruit on top of the trees, and then the half-eaten fruit is fell on the ground, and pig eats that, and that's how basically people. And then first the pig gets sick, and then the people who are handling those pigs also get sick. The fatality rate was very high, somewhere around 50 to 75%, which is a pretty high fatality rate for any disease. Then later, we identified these outbreaks started to happen in Bangladesh and India. And in Bangladesh, there are no pig farms. So the question was how people are getting sick there. And with further research, we identified that there is, what we call the date sap, which is basically a juice or a liquid which is extracted from the date trees, and in the buckets or wherever that juice is a liquid is being collected. Sometimes bats, drink or eat from that same utensil, and then many people drink that sap juice raw, and that's how they got affected with that became the medium of infection from bat to the person. Human to human transmission have been limited. It has happened, it has been established, but limited at this moment. So that's the basic background of how we understood about this disease. And then in India and Bangladesh, pretty much yearly we see these outbreaks. Uh, but recently, what has happened in India, that was not a common area in which Nipah virus was being identified. And one more thing, what we also learned, that Nipah cases have been only identified in those areas or countries which are within the flying range of those flying bat. So if you can look for it on the internet, and you will see the range of the whole range of these flying bats. and it has not been identified in any country which is outside that flying range. So in India, this time there were a couple of cases. The cases were identified um, and later recovered, but we do not have information of how who was the index case or who was the first case. So that was a concerning thing because even though later cases recovered, we don't know how that disease started or outbreak started in this part of the world. And that's how I think the global health security comes into it. The global health security is based on this fact that infectious diseases or infectious or microorganisms don't respect international borders. So they can move freely from one country to another country. No border check can stop them. And as we saw that in COVID-19. So we need to, as a world, we need to work together to combat those highly infectious diseases. And to the and that's why WHO or World Health Organization has labeled it as one of the priority disease which has the potential of pandemic start. And the reasons are it's highly deadly disease, like as I said, 50 to 75%, uh, basically a droplet infection. And the third is there is no vaccine or treatment available for it. So all these factors make it has a potential to start a major pandemic in the world. But until now, it has only killed, it has been limited in nature. And if we say documented, so maybe less than 300 deaths have been caused due to Nipah in last 25 years. And if we say undocumented, that may go to 600 or 800 deaths. So these are very small number of deaths or mortality. So the question which became important in recent days that why after the outbreak in India, multiple countries started airport screening at in their countries, and that also I address this issue in one of my articles is that if a disease has killed very few, even though it is very deadly, why the countries are worried about its spread? And I think the one of the reason was that we didn't get a complete outbreak report from India. They s- and At least a week earlier until 2 week earlier, because I searched extensively on it, we didn't have like what we called an outbreak investigation report was not available anywhere. So as an epidemiologist who is living in the neighboring country, I had no idea how this disease was spread in India because it doesn't matter that nobody died there. But important thing is that we all need to learn from each other, and if there is an outbreak, is how the disease started, how it spreads, and how it was controlled. These three things are very important to set up your own screening methods in your own country, our own public health measures in your own country. That information was not available. And I think that lack of transparency actually forced many countries to come up with those strict airport screening measures. And the reason of fear is also this, which we saw in COVID-19, that microorganisms do change. And we saw in COVID-19 how many variants it came up with. Some were not that deadly and some were very deadly. Some were very infectious and some were not very infectious. It was keep evolving. And that's, every microorganism does that at a different pace. So we do not have that information on this Nipah, and that, or I would say, it has a potential to evolve into a deadly disease or in a more infectious version. And if it stays, even if it decreases its fatality a little bit, but increase its infectiousness, it has a much bigger potential of starting the pandemic. So that was the reason the countries were worried. And in my article, I actually, I know a lot of Indians who are my friends and colleagues. I'm sure Sanjeev also knows them. They're excellent outbreak investigators. They are excellent EIS officers who have been trained by US CDC and they're working in India. They have excellent EIS program in India also. So my request was to the governments, and I do this for the all everywhere, especially in our part of the world and even in the Western world. When this anything outbreak happens, and just like when the pandemic happened, the people who are trained to investigate and control the outbreaks are sidelined, and actually those people step in which have absolutely no background in outbreak controls or investigations, and they do not investigate the way it should be. They don't answer the key questions that how it was started, what are the major risk factors in this outbreak, not basic epidemiology in this outbreak, how we could control these outbreaks. That part is has been missing, which we saw in COVID-19 pandemic also. People who are leading the control efforts had never controlled one outbreak in their lives in most of the countries, but they were the leaders of pandemic control. So similarly, I was advocating for those people who are trained to manage outbreaks, who are trained to prevent outbreaks changing into epidemics or pandemics to step up, or the government should give them a chance to do it rightly. So that is the basic crux, that if we do not have an information, and if the countries try to hide uh, those outbreaks, the danger becomes bigger. And sometimes if we share the information promptly, truthfully, which is requirement of global health security agenda, which pretty much everyone in the world has signed up, then if we have that information, then the world may be less keen to institute severe border security processes. So sharing the information outbreaks in real time in a reliable and trustworthy way is critical component which was missing in COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, 5 6 years later, it's still missing today. So I know I have like 10, I had 10 minutes and it's pretty much time the over. But I just want to uh, highlight or give these two summary points again. Number one, infectious disease don't respect international borders. Remember that. No matter whatever you do, they're going to come to your country. And to combat them, you need to work collaboratively. Um, at a global level, at least at the regional level. So the South Asia needs to work together if we want our region to have be more prepared and protect our population, South Asian population from emerging infectious disease threats. With this, I will stop, and because I have to go somewhere else, if there are any questions, one or two, I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Are you okay? Good.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Rana Jawad Askar. The presentation was wonderful. So from the audience section, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment.
And someone has to read those comments because I can't.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I am monitoring the
And if someone has a question they want to ask verbally, they can raise hand as well, so we can allow them. So either in
yeah,
the chat or raise hand.
yeah.
Dr. Gaule, are you speaking? I think you're muted.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Rana. This very insightful presentation. So I'm thinking of my friends in South Asia right now. So what would be couple of things, like 1 2 3, that ordinary people and scholars can do to educate their colleagues and their communities at this critical point to be safe from this virus?
So thank you. Very good question. And so for the general public, I would recommend that if you're handling animals and animal gets sick, try not to take care of them yourself. Bring in professionals, veterinarians with proper PPE, because we don't know what zoonotic disease they may be harboring, which then can jump on you. So number one. Number two is that uh, in our part of the world, like in South Asia, we had the habit that when we buy fruits they are half eaten by birds, normally, the sellers tells us, see, the bird has eaten this fruit, so it has a very good taste, and we believe that. And until today, we used to eat those. I'm not recommending, don't eat half-eaten fruits which are fell on the ground, because that's a common issue in our rural areas. Kids are playing in the orchards and they see fruits which are fallen on the ground, and if they are eaten by any bird or any, try not to eat them and properly wash them before eating. Until now, we know this is like a droplet infection. So anywhere for your own protection, if you have gone to a animal farm, or you have and if you are living in Bangladesh or in that part of the world where date sap is being consumed raw. So do not drink it raw. Boil it and then drink it. And a lot of uh, sweets are made of this fruit, date sap. So try to make sure that they are well cooked before you eat. So these are the things which the people who are in that high risk area have to do. Others, I think, in Pakistan, we have never found uh, its presence is antibodies or its virus, at least until today. I don't want to create a panic, but for the public health professionals, we need to keep a watch on it. That if it is we are finding it in the new areas, that will be going to be a matter of concern.
Thank you, Dr. Rana.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Rana. So if there are
Thank
any
you very
more
much. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, so I can
So if
see
there
no.
are no question, then I will thank you again and log off.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rana, for the perspective and update. So let us proceed. And our next speaker is Dr. Pravat Adhikari. To highlight, he is the infectious disease expert, and he's here to highlight the clinical aspects at today's webinar of Nipah virus disease and emphasize how the public can best prepare and protect themselves from the virus. So, Dr. Pravat Adhikari, please proceed.
Thank you. I would like to share a PowerPoint, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Let me know if you
we
see
gave
it.
you the, yes, good. Yeah, we can see now. Yeah. We could see the slides, Dr. Prabhat Adhikari, so you could proceed.
Okay. So you see it now, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much for this opportunity. So I'll be discussing more about clinical features, but I thought I would just summarize everything in the slides. So I'll just be skipping the things we already know. So I do have conflict of interest because I also work for a point of care diagnostic kit company, and we work on the kits. So these are the topics that we're going to cover in this lecture. And so we're going to talk about introduction, pathogenesis, clinical features and management, epidemiology, current outbreak, One Health approach to control it, and the future updates. So as you can see, this Nipah virus, from the taxonomical point of view, classification, it belongs to Paramyxoviridae and subfamily Paramyxoviridae. And Nipah virus is the genus, and there are two major viruses with that. So we're going to talk about that. So this virus is actually a negative sense single-stranded RNA, and it's an undeveloped virus, and it has a RNA polymerase inside, And CDC, WHO, they have classified this pathogen as BSL-4. That's a very high rating because of high virulence and, as mentioned earlier, lack of treatment, and there's a high case fatality rate, 40 to 75%. And compared to other viruses in the family, this virus seems to have exceptionally large genome, and also it has broad range of hosts. So the primary host is the bat, but it can also infect pigs, horses, and humans. So so I think we already discussed about the mode of transmission. So basically, you can get this virus from bat to human transmission by consuming the raw dead palm sap or fruits, contaminated by the bats, and usually happens in winter season when they are doing harvesting. So that's December to May in Bangladesh. Or it can happen bat to animal infection, the pigs or horses consuming the litters or the fruits consumed by the bats, infected bats. And then the humans, they can also get it from the other host, like the horses or the pigs. And then finally, once a patient is infected, there's a possibility of human-to-human transmission. It can happen usually in the close family contact, or it has also happened in the healthcare setup, like in the hospitals.
Excuse me, Dr. Prabhat Adhikari.
Mhm.
The slides are static and it's not moving. So could you please check once again?
Do you see it now?
Yeah, we see the
No,
slides, but it's not moving. It's static. It is.
Yeah.
We only see the front part of it. So
only the front page cover.
Right.
Okay, let me. Do you see it now?
It's loading.
Is it moving?
yeah.
Yeah,
no.
yeah. No, it's okay.
Okay. Okay. All right, let me know. Thanks. So I think we discussed about that. So the next slide is about human-to-human transmission and isolation policy in the hospital. So as mentioned earlier, this virus is there in the saliva, in the urine, in the blood, in the vomitus, and also respiratory secretions. And usually it's a droplet transmission, but sometimes during intubation or aerosol, generating procedures like CPR, it can also aerosolize, just like COVID, And also there's been transmission during the funeral and rituals. So when a patient is there, a suspected patient with Nipah is in your hospital, you have to follow the protocol. The thing is, you have to go for the risk-based PPE. So put the patient in a single room, single isolation room, follow standard contact and droplet precaution, and also, if possible, in aerosol generating procedures, you might also want to go for airborne precaution, just like in COVID, and make sure the air is isolated and well vented so that all the infective things, they go out of the room into the environment, and make sure you have you're following the proper hand hygiene and other things. So if you remember COVID, severe COVID, it's something similar like that. So regarding the pathogenesis of the virus, so usually the virus enters with some receptors called F-ring, B2 and B2 receptors. And these receptors are mainly present in the arterial endothelial cells and neurons. And that's why this virus is vasculotropic, more on the arterial side, and it spreads to the blood and systemic spread. And it's also neurotropic, so sometimes it can go into your olfactory nerve and then into your CNS. So you can get a systemic spread of the virus through both ways. And also the virus can propagate, and there is something called immune evasion by blocking the interferon. So this is another slide about the things I mentioned. And just like any other infection can kick in a cytokine storm or inflammatory cascade, and you get all those complications, just like you see in the COVID. So the take-home message here is that this virus attacks your arteries, the endothelial cells, and mostly in the lungs and also in the nerves. So let's talk about the clinical features and management. So the incubation period of this virus is 4 to 14 days. Sometimes it has been up to 45 days, prolonged cases. And there's an initial prodromal phase when you get fever, headache, muscle pain, weakness, even sore throat, dizziness, So that happens in any other viral disease. And it's so since it happens in the winter season, you might be confused with these symptoms as COVID or flu or even other viruses. And then the patient gets respiratory phase where the virus goes to the lungs. The patient might have cough, difficulty breathing, or pneumonia. And then the patient can also land up in ARDS in complicated cases. And that's all driven by the cytokine storm. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a neurotropic virus. So the patient will get confusion, altered mental status, seizure, and the patient can quickly go into coma. So they have reported that the patient has been into coma within 24 to 48 hours. And then the case fatality rate, it's all over. It's 40% to 75%, as high as 80%. And in one of the reports, I think 2018 outbreak or before that, there was 91%. So nowadays, like in India and Bangladesh, people are more aware, doctors are aware, there's early diagnosis, management and things like that. So the mortality is coming down, but it's nevertheless a deadly virus. So the take-home message is that you get any fever, just like body pain, malaise, just like any other viral disease, but it rapidly progresses to respiratory phase, just like COVID plus encephalitis, just like rabies or something like that. So if you have somebody who has viral fever and the patient gets pneumonia and neuro symptoms, altered mental status, seizures, something like that, then you need to think of Nipah virus. And some people have survived and they might suffer with long-term effects. 20% of the people, they survive, but some of the people, they end up getting seizure disorder, personality changes, memory problems, and things like that. So management, it's tricky because first to diagnose this disease, we have RT-PCR. You can do in the respiratory sample or blood or CSF after lumbar puncture. And in some cases, basically in the community, you can also do ELISA to see who have been exposed to the Nipah virus. So basically it's RT-PCR. And the treatment is all symptomatic and supportive. WHO doesn't mention about any specific treatment. But if you look at the CDC website, they are talking about some investigational products like experimental monoclonal antibody, remdesivir, and even ribavirin. And also there are some other antivirals they are checking right now. So let's talk about a brief epidemiology. So just like mentioned earlier, this is the famous bat. It's called fruit bats or flying foxes. And there's a family called Pteropodidae family of the bats. And there are two kinds of bats that are responsible for transmission. The main bat is Pteropus. That's the bat that transmit the Nipah virus. It's prevalent in Southeast Asia, the Pacific area, and Australia. And in Africa, they have a different kind of bat. It's called Itulon. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that hasn't been found to be transmitting the disease yet, but it has potential. We'll talk about that. So if you look, it's a zoonotic disease. So it started in 1998 in Malaysia. The next year, there was an outbreak in Singapore from the pigs that came from Malaysia. So the outbreak happened from bat to pigs and pigs to humans and human to human. In 2001, there was an outbreak in India and Bangladesh. And in Bangladesh, since then, it's been almost every year, there's some outbreak going on. In 2014, there was an outbreak in Philippines, but that was from the horses. And in 25, 26, we have outbreak in India as well. So it's a busy slide. I don't want to go over this. So this is a famous slide from the WHO. So if you can, I'm going to explain this slide. So if you see that there's the orange area. So those are the areas which have these viruses. So there are two viruses. There's Nipah virus and there's a closely related Hendra virus. So they come from the same family. So Nipah virus is all over, like in India, Bangladesh, the Pacific. But in Australia, there's a similar virus called Hendra virus. And that also comes from the same bat. So the bat that's a host for the virus is the same actually. And if you look at the green line, that's the area where the bat moves around, you know. So the same bat could be transmitting the virus all the way from India, Bangladesh, you know, the Pacific, and also Madagascar in Africa. So there's a potential of Nipah virus going into new places like Africa. And in Africa, there's a different fruit bat that I mentioned. And in those fruit bats, you can see at the purple, dotted purple, they've found the antibodies against these viruses. So maybe the bats were exposed, or maybe the bats can get exposed, can get infected, and might have potential to spread the viruses to other parts of the world. So this is a really important picture. And also there's some new virus reported in, I think, 2022 from China. So they had an outbreak of mini outbreak of a new viral disease that's called Nipah virus, and this is the third virus related to the same family. We have Nipah, we have Hendra virus in Australia, and we have Dengue virus in China. But this Chinese virus is not that deadly. There was no case fatality. There was no neurotropism, so no encephalitis, and there was no death. But the host for this virus was shrew, and it had intermediate host, dog and goat as intermediate host, and then got to the humans. So the thing I'm trying to highlight is that the same host, bat, can transmit multiple viruses, you know, in different parts of the world.
Gary, so sorry to interrupt you, but due to time constraint, I think we should be wrapping up within 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay. Towards the end of my presentation, so the current outbreak, you know, in India in August 6th, there was an outbreak in Kerala. I think they had 4 cases, 2 deaths, and then in January 30, WHO reported 2 cases in West Bengal, from India, and as of now, the WHO report says that it's a moderate level of risk at the subnational level, but for international or national threat, it's a low level. So that means like they don't think the virus is going to spread out of India, you know. But you never know. So countries are being vigilant, and as we mentioned earlier, we need to be suspicious of any cases that presents with fever, pneumonia, and meningeal signs or encephalitis. So finally, how to control this disease? So we should take something like One Health approach. It's a zoonotic disease. It has infection in the animals. It has reservoirs or host in the animals, and also it transmits human to human. So you have to focus not only on the human population, but also you have to focus on the animals and the bats and the environment in general. So you have to take a One Health approach. And there's the paper from India, I think that was in 2024, based on their experience from 2018 outbreak. They have divided like 5 pillars of work to control the disease. I'm not going to go in detail, but basically they are saying like do a One Health approach, strengthen your health diagnostics, management, early diagnosis, contact tracing, you know, and also check on the animals and the bats. So future updates. So there are new vaccines. There are phase 2 clinical trials of new vaccines going on in Bangladesh right now, and there's some monoclonal antibodies being tested, and remdesivir and favipiravir are some new, investigational products that's been tried. These are the references, and that's pretty much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prabhat Adhikari. So I would again kindly like to request from our participants and from the audience, if you have any questions for Dr. Adhikari, please drop in the comment section.
Or alternatively, you can also raise hand if you would like to, who are in the audience. Okay.
So I can see no questions, so I think we should proceed. And our next speaker is Dr. Sanjeev Sapkota. Today, he will highlight key similarities and differences between Nipah virus and COVID-19 virus. So Dr. Sapkota, it's a pleasure to invite you as a next speaker. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bandari. Can you all hear me well?
Yeah,
so good. Perfect. So let me. As Dr. Prabhat Adhikari and Dr. Jawad Rana has excellently described epidemiology, clinical, and the treatment and future actions on the Nipah virus. But what I'm going to do is kind of make some similarities and comparison between COVID-19, which is still fresh in our memories, right? I mean, we just had it like a few years ago, and still, the cases are around, and it has not been, faded away from our memory. So I think it sticks well if we kind of describe this, how it is similar or different from the COVID-19. As Dr. Adhikari and Dr. Rana mentioned, you might be wondering, like, bats and then fruits. I mean, how come? I mean, bats are in the wild, and there are fruits, and how people will kind of consume those. So I mean, as you can see in the picture, like upper right and left, the bat, fruit bat. I mean, they're named fruit bat because their food is fruits, right? So I mean, bats are blind, and they work through infrared, the wavelength, and then they actually are attracted to fruits. So I mean, it might seem uncommon for a bat to consume food, but you can see here, like bats are consuming fruits, and those fruits, some of them they get it, some of them drops, and then they, as Dr. Adhikari said, they are the natural reservoir of the virus, which means the virus do not affect them, they not make them sick or ill, but then it sickens other animals and including humans. And in the lower pictures, I'm putting the pictures of the dates. Are I think in Nepali we call it chohora, right? Chohora, it's a dried chohora on the right, and then the tree. So dates are like that, and they are popular fruits for bats, and that's one of the fruit through which we get infection when the bats bite them and leave them, and if human consumes, and I think up to 3 days the viruses gets active outside of the reservoir in bats, and during that time they could get infected. So why it is called Nipah? Dr. Adhikari mentioned earlier. So it was first discovered in a village called Nipah in Malaysia, and that's how it got its name. So almost like more than 25 years ago, they found an outbreak of the encephalitis. Actually, encephalitis is a inflammation or the disease of the brain, and that actually was happened in this village called Nipah in Malaysia, and the scientists actually named this virus as after the name Nipah. It's been already been covered, COVID and like Nipah and COVID. So one is caused by the SARS-CoV. COVID is a respiratory disease. Again, Nipah is also transmitted through respiratory channel, but then it is zoonotic virus, zoonotic, like from animal to human. That is the Nipah. COVID also can have zoonotic, but it's more human to human. So similarities between both are RNA zoonotic viruses, and then differences that the virus family and genomes are different. You can see this movement of my slides, right? Just let me know if the slides are static. So Nipah, in a natural reservoir, again, bats, and then when the viruses, kind of leave bat and they infect pigs, and they get, get infected, also infected dead sperms, that also actually, causes the transmission of the virus. COVID also have likely origin from bat. It's still been debated, but more than likely it is from bats. But then both of them, once the humans actually are infected, then human to human transmission is possible. Again, it's been covered. We have seen Dr. Adhikari said the Nipah has been seen in Bangladesh. One death, many people have died. Earlier Malaysia, and then it is rather slow to transmit, but it has a higher mortality rate, meaning that number of people it infects, the chances of people dying from Nipah is higher than COVID. I mean, COVID have more transmissibility. It is transmitted very quickly, but then it may not be as deadlier as the Nipah, because the Nipah kills many people than the COVID. So there are comparisons here. Is it transmitted through cough, sneeze? Because droplets, yes, both are transmitted from the droplets coming out of our mouth and sneeze while talking, and that you still remember the 6 feet, right? So be at least away from an infected person, at least 6 feet away. So that is what should happen in Nipah as well. We should be getting away from the infected person, wearing masks. And it is spread by droplet and airborne. Very significant in COVID, but not much in Nipah. Animal to human, yeah, it is possible. It does transmit from animal to human. If you remember, one virus is called S5N1, which is the influenza virus, which has not yet transmitted from animal to, it has transmitted from animal to human, but not human to human. But both Nipah and COVID seems to be transmitted from human to human. So that is where the concern is, because they are transmitted. Already covered, but Nipah incubation period. Incubation period is the time it takes from the virus entering the body and we develop the symptoms. So as Dr. Adhikari said, it could be up to 45 days in rare scenarios, but typically 4 to 14 days. COVID had 2 to 14 days, median, in average 5 days. And then Nipah seems to have a longer incubation period, symptoms not so quickly. Clinical features similar. One difference is loss of smell in COVID, not seen in Nipah, and then Nipah is more neurological, affiliated, because it impacts the nervous system more than COVID. COVID, coronavirus, attacks the respiratory more than neurological organs, but Nipah does also affects the respiratory system, but more than that, the infection is kind of affiliated to the nervous system. That's why when it was first discovered in Malaysia, the people actually had encephalitis, which is a disease of the nervous system. Fatality. That's the the focus I want to draw your attention. See the 40 to 75, meaning that if 100 people are infected with the virus, at least 40 to 75 people will die, right? And there is no cure. There is no vaccine and there is no medication right now against that. So far, they're still trying. We saw that there's some trials going on. Whereas in COVID, case fatality rate is not as much as high as Nipah, but it is more transmissible. Again, Nipah has more higher mortality. So once we infected it, we are at the mercy of our kind of immunological system. If our immunity is high and we are given care, then our chances of survival is high. If not, people have like heart disease, diabetes. So people who need to be aware and need to be careful are those who have already diseases like heart disease, diabetes, other immunological diseases, immune suppressions. Those people need to be very careful, because if the Nipah attacks them, their chances of getting and ending up in hospital and being very serious is very high. So that's what I wanted to mention that. I don't want to go into detail, but as Dr. Adhikari said, infects the endothelial and neural cells, causes brain inflammation, whereas COVID-19 causes cytokine storm. Cytokine is defensive mechanism of the human body. Once the virus infects, then the body want to get rid of the virus by producing host of chemicals, and that chemicals actually attacks us as well. So that is the cytokine storm. Diagnosis again covered. We did, to diagnose, we need several specialized tests, and the tests are mentioned here. There is no treatment so far approved for Nipah. People are doing some, the trials. There is no licensed vaccine yet. So again, we have the best, treatment is the prevention. Let not get the virus. And if there is a suspect, somebody is suspicious, wear masks. Don't be close to the person who are suspected or infectious. I mean, even if it is not Nipah, somebody coughing, somebody sneezing, stay away from them. Okay. Whereas in COVID, we have antivirals and all those medications are has been kind of tried, and there is also multiple vaccines that you all have gotten the vaccines from COVID, right? So these vaccines are there. Again, Nipah is a priority pathogen. It's not as infectious as transmissible as COVID, but we should be very alert and be very cautious because once it's infected, again, the chances of dying is very high. So we don't want to be infected on that. That's the reason why we are concerned. I mean, it is low transmissible, but once it is transmitted, the mortality rate or the chances of dying is very high. That's why the public health, WHO, the governments are very worried. If it becomes highly transmissible, then we don't have the cure as yet. I mean, the treatment as yet. So, and no vaccines as yet. So that's the reason we are also organizing this important webinar. Again, both the Dr. Adhikari mentioned One Health. What that is we don't not only care about humans, but animals, humans, and environment all together. That is One Health. Okay. So while we are addressing any disease, then not only talk or focus on humans, but also focus on animals, how it is impacted them. Also focus on environment, how that could be, how environment could be changed for the prevention. That is what we're talking about. And that is my contact information. Thank you, and I'll stop here. Back to you, Ms. Bhandari.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjib Sapkota. The presentation was truly insightful. So may I again request the participants or from the audience section to drop the comments if you have any questions. Feel free to raise a hand or leave a comment. Yeah, I can see one question from Navindra Raj Bista. Any recommendations for Nepal government? Dr. Sapkota?
Thank you. I will pass that question to Dr. Adhikari, who is based in Nepal and is very, intimately affiliated with government. So, Dr. Adhikari.
Yeah, so I think it's a One Health approach, but disease actually comes from the border, with the people, I think. And I don't know if we can control the migration of the bats or something like that. But so as like other countries they've been doing, we should be vigilant on the borders and be doing quarantine, just like we did in the COVID. And there's a free border and there's election coming up. So there will be a lot of, migration of the people. And a lot of these people, they also come from the area that's where we have the disease outbreak in India, So that's number one. Second is that we need to raise awareness, basically among the healthcare workers, because a lot of our healthcare workers, they are not aware of the disease and how to test it, how to do infection prevention and control, those kind of things. So the second thing is that. Third thing is testing, because if you have any viral disease with pneumonia and then a CNS infection, then the first thing you have to think of is also Nipah, right? And the only way you can diagnose is through the PCR, and you need the primer for that. And so the government has to make sure that they have that lab capability to diagnose any Nipah. And until the patient is diagnosed and ruled out of Nipah, the patient should be in isolation and quarantined, And the third thing is that also public awareness should be there, but it shouldn't be to the level that people get scared. But the government should work on public awareness. And finally, the fifth thing I would like to address is that Bangladesh has been the country that has opened up for the trials for the vaccines. And so maybe Nepal could also work on being one of the sites for research and development for the vaccines or medicines or technology.
If I may add, Mr. Bhandari, one thing, and what Dr. Adhikari said, that we both worked closely and collaboratively, Dr. Adhikari, myself, and others during the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic. And one thing that we were challenged was the availability of the vaccine. Okay, once the vaccines was developed for the coronavirus, the COVID, and the challenge was the government waited for donations. It didn't proactively ask for vaccines. I mean, the developed country developed the vaccine and they have the patent. So the patent prevents from making vaccines by the government, the government of the other countries. They have to rely on the vaccines provided by them, and they are very costly vaccines. So I think the government either did not prioritize the buying of the vaccine or did not kind of a thought that it is needed to buy, and then they waited for donation. And donation, as you know, is at the mercy of the donors, right? Whatever they want, we have to accept it. So the donation was as a peanut and a drop in the bucket. So let's say Nepal has a population of millions, and the donations came into thousands. And that was not enough at all. And we remember back in 2021, when Delta virus, the Delta version of the COVID came, many people died in India and Nepal. And one of the main reasons was unavailability of the vaccines. And I think the government did not act, as much as it should have acted. So the government should be very, allocate the fund, and then they could cut, budget in other things. But then if they are worried about saving the lives of the people and citizens of the country, then they need to allocate fund and buy vaccines to prevent the disease from its transmission. And we cannot rely on donations. And if you can have, I think there are many areas that we can cut, and manage money, right? So if vaccines, let's say, for example, Nipah tomorrow becomes like a highly epidemic disease, and we are in need of somebody develops vaccine and we need to buy it, the government should allocate money and buy it for the citizens. Thank you, Namar.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adhikari and Dr. Sapkota. Now that all our panelists have shared their insights, may I finally request for the discussion and the question answer now? So if you have, again, the question, please feel free to drop the comments, or you can also raise the hand. So
I do have a question, actually.
Yeah.
I just muted as well. We can see no any questions nor in the chat. So finally, we have moved to the conclusion of this insightful webinar. I would like to once again invite Dr. Kit Wright, Vice President of the STAR Scholars Network, to deliver the vote of thanks and finally to join the webinar. So Dr. Kit Wright, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Bhandari. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends from across the region and across the world, thank you for joining us in this presentation. As we conclude, we affirm that our purpose has been clear, not to create alarm, but to promote informed, coordinated action. The Nipah virus is a serious zoonotic threat with high mortality spreading through animal to human contact, contaminated food sources, and close human interaction. Prevention depends on vigilance, avoiding high-risk exposures, strengthening hygiene practices, using appropriate protective measures in healthcare settings, and responding quickly to suspected cases. Knowledge, preparedness, and collaboration remain our most powerful tools in protecting communities. On behalf of the STAR Scholars Network, I extend sincere gratitude to our moderator, Ms. Anisha Bhandari, for guiding this important dialogue with clarity and focus, and to our distinguished panelists, Dr. Rana Jawad Ashkar and Dr. Prabhat Adhikari, MD, and to STAR's own Director of Public Health, Dr. Sanjeev Sapkota, for sharing their expertise, insight, commitment to global public health. Thank you all for contributing to a conversation grounded in science, responsibility, and collective care. Again, Dr. Sapkota, I ask, how will we contact each of you for further information?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Keith, again. And as I mentioned in my slide, let me put that up again. That at the very end, I have mentioned the contact address. Sorry. Okay, so you can contact, in the email mentioned shown in the slide, or in the phone, you can do WhatsApp or the email. So those are the ways that you could contact us. Thank you. It's sapkota@gmail.com and phone number here. Thank you.
Okay, Dhanyavad. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
May everyone have a safe and prosperous remaining in 2026, and may you have a pleasant day, night, or morning. Thank you, Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you.
I think Dr. Uttam can maybe discontinue the live, and we can maybe conclude. Thank you.